Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the absolute wild ride that is the third trimester and demystifying how labor actually works. We're going to look at the massive physical restructuring the female body goes through, the highly coordinated chemical signals that set the clock, and the exact sequence of events that brings a totally new life into the world. Let's get into it.
We usually think of birth as something that just kind of happens to a pregnant person, right? It's so easy to assume the maternal body is doing 100% of the work, holding the steering wheel and deciding exactly when it's time to trigger labor. But who's actually driving the timeline here? Is it purely a maternal biological clock, or is there another factor at play?
Well, here's the crazy part. The fetus, not just a passive passenger, it actually acts like a co-pilot, actively sending out chemical signals when it's ready for the outside world. It's this fascinating partnership. The onset of labor isn't just a switch flipped by the mom, it's a really complex, highly coordinated dialogue between the placenta, the maternal body, and the growing baby.
Section 1, the third trimester transformation. Let's look at the physical stage of late pregnancy and see exactly how the maternal body transforms to make room for this growing co-pilot.
Just look at how much everything gets squished out of the way. I mean, it is literally packed in there right before birth. In a full-term pregnancy, that expanding uterus pushes all the way up into the abdominal cavity. The stomach, the intestines, the liver, they are all totally displaced. The diaphragm is shoved upward, which compresses the lungs. And down below, the urinary bladder is put under immense pressure.
To really put this physical restructuring into perspective, the uterus expands to hold 5 liters of volume. 5 liters. And its mass can increase to anywhere from 1.1 to 3.2 kilograms. This immense structural change perfectly explains why expecting moms experience shortness of breath. Their expiratory reserve volume can actually drop by up to 40%, not to mention the constant, and I mean constant, urge to use the restroom from that bladder pressure, plus swelling in the legs because the blood vessels are so compressed.
Section 2, the fetal co-pilot. Okay, so with the physical stage set and the maternal body stretched to its absolute limits, how does the fetus actually start prepping for its exit strategy? So as the baby completely runs out of room, all its little kicks and stretches actually provoke the uterus into doing some practice runs. We call these Braxton Hicks contractions. The baby wriggles around, stretching out the myometrium, which is that really thick muscle layer of the uterus. And in response to being stretched, the muscle gently contracts back. These aren't true labor contractions yet, they're just practice. The body is essentially warming up the engine.
Now this is where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. The baby's own maturing brain and glands actually secrete the crucial hormones that tell the mother's body, hey, it's time to go. As the fetal organs get ready to survive on the outside, the fetal pituitary gland starts releasing ACTH, a stress hormone. That tells the fetal adrenal glands to secrete another hormone called DHEA. On top of that, the baby starts producing its own oxytocin. The co-pilot is literally flipping the switches on the control panel.
Section 3, overcoming the hormonal brakes. Before labor can officially kick off, the body has to clear a massive chemical hurdle.
Think of pregnancy hormones kind of like driving a car. For the previous 9 months, progesterone has been acting as the brakes. It puts an inhibitory block on those highly muscular uterine walls to stop labor from happening prematurely. But as we approach the very end, the body has to shift gears. Estrogen and oxytocin step in to hit the gas pedal, and they drive labor forward by making those uterine muscles highly excitable.
Right before birth, estrogen levels, which are pumped out by the placenta, just absolutely spike. And this sharp rise effectively stomps right through those progesterone brakes. But estrogen also does something else that's absolutely vital. It causes the muscle fibers of the uterus to build these tiny cellular bridges called gap junctions, and it massively increases the number of oxytocin receptors on those muscles. So now the uterus is primed, super sensitive, and completely ready to contract.
All of this sets off an incredible positive feedback loop, which, by the way, is actually super rare in human biology. Here's how the loop works. First, the baby's head drops, which stretches the cervix. That physical stretch sends a nerve impulse straight to the mom's brain, yelling at it to release maternal oxytocin. The oxytocin travels down to that newly primed uterus, causing a really forceful contraction. That contraction pushes the baby further down, which stretches the cervix even more. That sends another signal, releasing even more oxytocin, causing an even stronger contraction. The cycle just feeds itself, growing more and more intense right up until birth.
Section 4, the 3 stages. Once that positive feedback loop takes over the driver's seat, we officially enter the main event.
The fancy medical term for this whole biological process is parturition. Basically, it's the highly structured, massive physical undertaking to safely maneuver the baby out of the protective bubble of the uterus and into the external world.
The climax of our biological countdown maps out into 3 very distinct phases. You go from the baby being fully tucked inside an intact amniotic sac, moving down into the birth canal, and finally, the delivery of the placenta after the baby is already out.
So we've got dilation, which is opening up the pathway, expulsion, which is the physical effort of delivering the baby, and the placental stage, delivering the afterbirth. Let's break these down because each one has its own specific timing and milestones.
Okay, stage 1, dilation. This is usually the longest part, lasting anywhere from 6 to 12 hours. During this phase, hormones like relaxin help soften up the joints in the pelvis and really stretch the cervix. Contractions here are regular, but they aren't right on top of each other yet, maybe 2 to 6 an hour. The whole goal here is just to dilate that cervix all the way to 10 centimeters. And this is typically when the amniochorion membrane ruptures. You probably know this as the waters breaking.
Once fully dilated, boom, we hit stage 2, the expulsion phase, and this is intense. Contractions are now hitting every 2 to 3 minutes, and they last a full 60 seconds each, actively pushing the baby out. During this incredibly tight squeeze through the birth canal, the umbilical cord gets compressed, which actually causes the fetus to experience temporary drops in oxygen, called intermittent hypoxia. But honestly, biology is amazing. To survive that stress, the baby's adrenal glands flood its system with a massive surge of fight-or-flight hormones, which preps its lungs for air and protects its brain.
Now, even after the baby arrives and takes that first magical breath, mom's body isn't totally finished. Welcome to stage 3, the placental stage. Within about 5 to 30 minutes, powerful uterine contractions actually start up again. Their job is to safely shear the placenta off the uterine wall and expel it. And crucially, those exact same contractions are acting like a natural tourniquet, squeezing shut the torn maternal blood vessels to prevent severe bleeding.
Section 5, Summary and Takeaways. We have covered a ton of fascinating biology today, going all the way from the sheer physical pressures of the 3rd trimester down to the exact hormonal triggers of birth. So let's quickly recap. The absolute biggest takeaway here is that labor is a highly coordinated chemical and physical partnership. The maternal organs shift to make room, sure, but it's the maturing fetal hormones that help stomp on those progesterone brakes. That kicks off that wild oxytocin positive feedback loop, pushing the body through the 3 distinct stages of parturition: dilation, expulsion, and the placental stage. I'm going to leave you with this final thought. If a baby literally helps trigger its own birth by firing off chemical signals from its maturing brain, how much more of this incredible biological journey is being quietly directed from within the womb? It really kind of changes how you view the whole timeline of life, doesn't it? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the incredible mechanisms that make our biology work.